Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind. And sometimes
I had a conversation today with Ian Koniak, an old friend and very, very successful entrepreneur and longtime very successful enterprise seller. I know him from my days at Salesforce. And I just have to say, I originally recorded an intro for the podcast. And after talking to him, I had to redo it. And there's a number of reasons why. First of all, I learned a ton about Ian and what he is up to and kind of his approach to life now. But I also learned a lot about some of his his learnings and some of the mantras that he uses in his daily practice. And I think it's going to be really interesting for you to hear his story, not just his story, but, how he incorporates into his life, both his personal life and his professional life, what he's learned in recovery. And, as I've talked about in the past, recovery is not something that you can do alone. It's something that requires, it takes an army. It is a daily practice. It requires, a daily intention to how we handle tough situations. And for a lot of you out there that are struggling, I was right there with you, not struggling anymore because I'm actually working a program and everything else. But, when our character defects come out and when we can't, when things happen out of our control, the reaction and ultimately the byproduct is some type of usage of something, whether it's drugs or alcohol, or, in Ian's case, it was a porn addiction. And I felt like it was better to kind of introduce it this way. So very excited for you to meet Ian. Very excited for you to listen to the conversation. Please reach out and, let me know what you think. And I hope you enjoy from here. And here's Ian Koniak. My brother. Hello, Ian. How's it going, my man?
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream.
That's so good to see you. I think about all the years of time that we've spent together, and it's always so good to see your face.
Likewise, man. And we both have added facial hair since our last time we worked together.
Little facial hair, some years of experience, some good times, some bad times, some fun, all that stuff.
Some grays, although you're hiding yours a little more than
I know. It's actually, that's the great thing about a mic, because you can just basically get behind the mic and you can say everything. Nobody knows anything.
I'll put it all out there. I'll zoom in from that.
So hey, welcome to the Sober Cold Bear. I appreciate you being here. Obviously we have a ton of history together. We've known each other for, dude. I mean, I think it's 8 or 9 years now. It's it's crazy. It's just crazy. We want to hear your story. We want to talk about, anything under the sun as it relates to recovery, as it relates to, how we can help others. It's, the whole goal of this, as I talked to you about, as part of my program, I wanted to do as much service as possible, and I wanted to get the word out about how we can help others, create a more healthy path for their lives. And, that's why I started this. By no means, just so everybody knows, this is not you need to get sober. This is nothing like that. It is all about, this is a resource, and this is a channel, and we're going to try, I want to make this fun and everything else. But everybody meet my good friend Ian Koniak. And Ian, why don't you take it away? Tell us about yourself, and we'll get going.
Well, where do we start? I guess I'll talk about my recovery journey.
Do it.
I come from a family of addicts. My dad was an alcoholic. He passed away when I was 20. My cousin Adam also struggled with drugs and alcohol, and he passed away when he was 47. I worked for a boss at Salesforce who had addictive tendencies. He passed away at 49. So I've seen a lot of men die from lifestyle choices, and a lot of that included alcohol and drugs and food. And I think when I think about addiction recovery, I don't think about alcohol or drugs or food or sex. I think about escaping from your emotions and your feelings and the inability to be with yourself. And so I think addiction in general is misunderstood. And if you think about my story, I didn't consider myself to be an addict. I think I had addictive tendencies, but I went for most of my adult life until I was 41 years old as a very high functioning addict. I never shot up heroin. I never went to jail. I had a great wife and family.
No
Made
DUI,
no
nothing.
DUI,
Yep.
no rock bottom. Interestingly, I had always had an extremely addictive personality, and in college I got very addicted. I don't even talk about it much, but drugs and alcohol were a huge part of my life daily in college for many years.
Just out, like all drugs, or like anything that you could get your hands on, or was it just like,
Um,
kind of like, on the weekends type of thing?
uh, I'd say I smoked weed every day,
Okay.
multiple times. I took harder drugs. I never shot heroin, and I never smoked crack, but I did everything else, hallucinogens and
Sure.
ecstasy, and got
Coke.
got very involved. Coke, sure,
Yep.
yeah. And I won't get into details. I don't share this. I've actually never shared this, and there's no reason to share it. But I could have and should have. I was exposed to a lot of people who were arrested in my immediate circle,
Okay.
and that scared the shit out of me. And
Yeah.
so I literally, like overnight, decided um, to stop dabbling in certain activities I uh, that I was partaking in, and I didn't stop using, but I definitely toned it down in college, and that was like a wake up call, seeing people in my circle get arrested,
Sure.
and that led to. It's interesting because in college I studied abroad in Australia, and I remember like going in the casino Friday night and coming out Sunday morning.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Kind of one of those kind of gambling benders. Okay. Okay.
gambling, booze.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I
We've
had a
all. We've
very,
all. I've been there.
yeah,
I've
I've had very addictive personality, but I kind of thought it's being young and stupid, right? Just partying, women, drugs, alcohol, gambling, you name it, I did it. And then
Sure.
when I was 25, I crashed my car into a tree going 55 miles an hour, piss drunk on the way to a strip club. I was 25. My girlfriend had
Wow.
just cheated on me. I had brought her here from Venezuela, lived with her, put everything I had in this relationship, and I was felt very betrayed, and that kind of got me on this, I would say, work hard, play hard cycle that
Sure.
I would be in sales, and on the weekends I'd be a weekend partier, and it culminated with me crashing into a tree, and that was another wake up call. So a bunch of people get arrested around me in college. Wake up call you know, didn't stop me. Crash into a tree, wake up call, but didn't stop me. I still got drunk. I just didn't drink and drive. And somehow I got away from this unscathed. It's like I didn't end up going to jail.
So just so we're on the same page. Nobody came. Nobody showed up. No cops showed up. Like you just.
Well, here's the
Were-
real story. So I crashed in the tree. I'm pissed drunk, like beyond. I was probably
Yeah.
at point two.
Yeah.
I mean, we had been all night, and I drove and just crazy. Shouldn't be anywhere near a car, and that's
Okay.
why we crashed into a tree. But somehow I was so limber that I just didn't get tense up when
Lucid.
half of the
Yeah.
the airbags went off, and I got the hell out of there. I was with a buddy of mine, and the cops stopped us on the street walking, and they said, "Hey, we heard there's a big accident around here. Two men left the scene. Do you guys know anything about it?" And
No
he
fucking way.
sits me on the curb, puts the flashlights in my eyes, and says, "Do you know anything about that?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Where are you coming from?" I'm like, "We're just walking home. We were at a bar," and they couldn't connect me to the car because they hadn't gotten to the scene yet, right? And they had no way to do that, and they let us go. And I go back to get my car the next day, and somehow stumble home. We split, got home. Before they got there, we took off and come back to the scene. The car's gone, and the cops had impounded it for
Sure.
a hit and run against city property, which was the tree that I crashed into.
Okay.
So I got a lawyer. I told the lawyer to fell asleep, and they couldn't argue it because there was no proof that I had been drinking. So it was,
Wow.
yeah, I kind of had all these run-ins many times, but I always got away with it. I always seemed to like get away with it. So you can
Wow, man,
see the
that's heavy.
addiction. You
Well,
can see
yeah.
it.
So, yeah, I mean, and we could like dive deep into kind of like what is your rock bottom. And I mean, look, I've had a million of those where I should have said like, okay, uh,
Yeah.
it's time, and I didn't actually have it until um, my final time, and I was just like, this is just bullshit, and
Yeah.
this is insane, and everything else. Uh, Before we kind of get into, I want everybody to know about your very very. By the way, congrats on all of your success.
Thank
Your
you.
success in business is, as I've told you for years, it's always been something that I've admired and respected. And obviously, you're a very accomplished executive, and you took a big leap of faith and went off and started your own business, and
Hmm.
now you're crushing it. Tell us a little bit about that, and what I want you to also do is maybe kind of guide us into some of the folks that you work with and how you're starting to see those that you work with and their struggles, and how you're incorporating
Yeah.
recovery into your coaching.
So we'll jump ahead 20 years. So all
Yes,
this
man.
the tree stuff happened in 2020 in 2005. Actually, it's January 2006. So it would have been 19 years ago.
Hmm.
Fast forward 19 years. I have a beautiful wife, two amazing kids. I've been
Yeah, you do.
sober for 5 years. I have a business that just made the Inc. 5000. We did 3.5 million last year. We'll do over four this year. Team of 12 people, and we serve and coach sellers to help them perform at their full potential. But the difference is every other sales training out there is coaching on skills and selling skills. We coach on holistic person. So we bring personal development into the world of sales, which is absent from there. Every
So
sales
you're
training.
so are you kind of like a psychiatrist meets like executive coach for selling? Is that like a
It's a good
fair?
way to put it. It's a good way to put it.
Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
work on limiting beliefs. We work on, habits. We work on time management, morning routine. It's holistic. It's how do you be a top performer in sales and as a husband, as a father, as a wife, as a mom, peak health, peak fitness. I mean, frankly, I live that, and
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
proud of that. I've run two marathons. I'm in the best shape of my life, and I'm done working by five with my family and making millions of dollars in the process. So I don't know many founders that don't have that type of balance. So what I'm teaching people is how to have it all, how to have wealth and health and love and family. And if you are obviously struggling with addiction or vices, that
Yep.
that is impossible. There is no way because you're hiding and you have secrets and you have shame, and that's not what. So I'm kind of teaching the whole thing. I've taken all the recovery stuff, plus all the sales stuff, plus all the personal development stuff, and the mindset, discipline, and health. I've been coaching myself intensively for 8 years as a client of coaching programs, and I'm taking everything I'm learning and really bringing it into one holistic program. So we'll have people that stay with us 3-4 years and
Yep.
continue because they evolve and grow in such a way where they want more. So it's really more than I'd say it's personal development plus sales training for high profile, high stress tech sellers where they haven't had this type of support before and certainly don't get it at their companies. They come to us and we help them.
I think being in that world and understanding that world and having many many years of success myself, um, you and I actually, because I remember like we'd have these conversations very early on when this I think was very conceptual. Your company was conceptual, right? And we would always talk. We actually share very similar ideas around how we build relationships, how we execute, how we and ultimately. But I think as I've gotten older and as I've looked at kind of what what is success to me,
Mhm.
I think a lot of folks get rung up on how big of deals they've closed and their bank accounts and what they're driving and where they live and just kind of all the material things. Um, that to me is not. And by the way, like guilty as charged, when I was younger, that to me now is really not how I judge success. How I judge
Mhm.
success is, um, am I the best husband? Am I showing up as the best version of myself?
Yeah.
Am I raising my two kids? Am I being a good friend? Um, am I actually practicing a recovery program and actually doing that in a good way? And what I've learned, and I'm curious your insights on this, is what I've learned is that if you can find balance in who you are and you can strip those layers of the ego, then everything else should show up in a meaningful way and people can see you for who you are. If you're constantly trying to flex and act a part because that's how you think people want to see you, that's where folks get into trouble. Curious your thoughts on that
Yeah, I
point
think
too.
that sounds like it's a lot to wear if you're wearing a mask in terms of trying to be what you think others want or need you to be, whether it's at work, whether it's at home. And my definition of success is very, very similar to yours. It's peace of mind that comes from knowing you're doing your best to become the best you're capable of becoming. And when you say doing your best to become the best you're capable of becoming, you could be very successful in business or sales, but if you're not a good husband or father, if you're yelling at your spouse, if you're hiding, if you're keeping secrets, in the case of what I was doing, if you're lying, if you're eating shitty, if you're, not around, if you're just your integrity is compromised with your value system, you are not successful. In fact, that's that's quite the opposite of success. So when I think about success, I think about you being able to be your authentic, loving, service-oriented self in all ways. So I'm going to show up in service on this podcast. I'm going to show up in service when I'm with a client. I'm going to show up in service when I'm with my family. I want to serve, and that to me is success, is be a blessing, and it feels so much better because you can show up to a sales call or a meeting in service, and you don't have anything to prove, and you're literally curious. When you have your shit together, when you are confident and comfortable in your own skin because you have nothing to hide and you're not putting on a mask, you can be free to serve. And that ultimately is why and how my business has gotten where it's gotten. So again, fast forwarding, I got sober in 2020. I left Salesforce in 2021 because I had nothing left to prove. I had gotten to be a top performer. I had made great money and I wanted to serve. And it wasn't aligned anymore. It just wasn't. And so I went and did the work that enabled me to be the person that could coach from a place of authenticity and from a place of experience in having gone through the hardest of hardships. And now I can see people for where they were versus who I was. So I can appreciate when I'm sitting with someone where they are, whether it's struggling in sales, whether it's struggling with addictions, whether it's struggling with the marriage, because I had put in the work in all those areas. And so and the work never stops, frankly. It's always, when you're on this train, you're always aware of areas that you need to improve. That's why, again, success is peace of mind, which knows you're doing your best to become the best. It's not you did your best. It's you're doing. It's actively working on yourself. And so that's something I have to live. I always have to live, and it doesn't stop. This weekend, I'll just give you an example. I'm going out to dinner with my brother tomorrow night. I'm taking him out, and he's struggling. I told you I have addiction in my family, and
Sure.
It didn't skip him, and so being able to support him as a brother is a part that I wasn't showing up as much as I'd like to. So I invited him out. He had reached out, and I made sure I made the time. My wife and my family's in Lake Arrowhead, but I said nope. I'm not gonna. My brother is more important right now because
for you.
he needs me. So I think.
For you.
I think you're always kind of like playing this inventory. You're always taking a moral inventory. You think about step 4 and step 10. You're constantly doing an inventory of where are character defects, and they're always going to be there. And sometimes this is just one example of my brother. Another example is I tend to chase the success, chase the money. And the Bible is very clear. Don't make money your God. You can't serve two masters. And for me, my God is my God, not money. So I have to check myself, because when I make it about the money, I lose the heart of service, because I'm running the business. I'm running operations. I'm running marketing campaigns.
Absolutely.
And it just doesn't feel good to be that way, because you're not connected to spirit. You're not connected to heart. So I just say this because I agree fully. When you can be authentic in your own skin, and you could be successful in true to yourself in all parts of your life, in all situations. There is nothing more free in the world than just being able to be you. And we're all unique and we're all different. And that's, I think, a beauty of, like, again, the 12 steps of recovery journey is you have to,
Sure.
you got to put it all
think,
out there. You got to bear everything, right? So
I think Ian, one of the interesting things about step 4 is, when you write down your list, right? My sponsor has been sober. He got sober at 23 in 1977. He's been sober for 47 years.
wow.
He was a tech executive at Cisco for a long time, and just an incredible human being. But he constantly talks to me about, like, self-awareness and the importance of self-awareness and the importance of, like, showing up as the best version of yourself and stripping away those layers. And in step 4, you obviously write down, like, who you have resentment towards and kind of what is your role in it, right? But ultimately, kind of the output of that is, like, actually writing down. I'm actually going through step 4 right now with him, where you actually, like, he's like, okay, now what I want you to do is, like, write down 3 fears for each resentment. And I'm like, holy shit, like, this is hard to do. The other spectrum to that is, like, is the forgiveness aspect, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of, and I'm going through this because I'm constantly working on myself. I have a therapist. I'm doing things to really, I can't recommend enough how therapists can really help. I think a lot of people try and figure it out on their own. You can't. You just can't. It's just
a
impossible.
combination of step work plus therapy. It's
Yeah, well, there's more than that. It's a whole healthy lifestyle of step work. It's therapy. It's exercise. It's like, in my case, I've got my my cold plunge, that I do every day, and sauna every day.
I meditated 10 minutes before this call.
And meditation.
It's all the tools. It's
I'll give you another example. I was out for a walk right before this, kind of clearing my head, and I've kind of named my inner voice. My middle name is Jason, so Matt Jason, and I've named my inner voice Jason. And oftentimes, when I get into stressful situations, I put up kind of this cloud, right? This kind of, like, and what it is it's your own mental, your internal mental state that's protecting you from that stress. So one of the techniques I'm starting to use is actually talking to my inner self, and I call him Jason, saying, like, hey, Jason, look, I'm in a safe place. I'm talking to Ian. We're having a great conversation, and this is gonna, a lot of folks are gonna see this. This is gonna help, hopefully, a lot of folks. Please give me the grace to open up my mind and give me clarity. Those simple little things that I use to kind of talk through to myself, those are hard things to do when you're in the moment. Same things, like, with, very pressured situations, like you get leadership challenges, or you're in a big organization, highly political. We can certainly kind of point, in all directions and see that everywhere. You deal with these guys all day long, these folks. There's a great book by Mel Robbins called The Let Them Theory, and I constantly have to remind myself that nothing else that everybody does is in my control. And
it's so funny, 'cause I see you, and it's like you used to really react, and you used to get so, like, pumped up, and, like, you're just a different person from when we worked together in every possible way, in every good way.
I would say you're right. I mean, there's still areas that I do slip up, but there are other ways that I have actually,
But
gone
just the
through.
calmness and the demeanor and just the general, I just don't see you getting so fired up and just, like, reacting out internal stuff or, whatever. That really used to get you. So it's not surprising that you're doing that work.
I appreciate that, man. It's self work is probably the hardest work, and it's not something that you can do 10 minutes a day. It's something that you're constantly having to work on all the fucking time, and
You're right.
you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
I mean,
I
you,
do.
you, I mean, this is your
I live
career,
it.
right? This
I
is your
live it. This is what I teach people. Self-care. It's all of the routines, the affirmations, it's journaling, it's meditation, it's cold plunge, it's exercise,
positive thinking.
it's breath work, it's positive thinking, it's letting go, it's stoicism, it's limiting belief work. It literally,
Hmm.
you're speaking my language, brother, and
Yeah,
it's a daily practice. It really is. If you
it's
don't have those,
absolutely a daily intention. I go to a meeting every single morning now at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm in a room with these wonderful people. But it sets my mood, dude. It just sets me on like the right path. It gets me in the right intention, all day long, and I'm just a better person for it. And you know what? Um, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know today I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to use, right? Because I have that purpose. Um,
beautiful.
without, I don't want you to give away your business because obviously that's critical. But how do you, let's say I'm coming to you for the first time. Talk me through how you learn about a person other than just kind of asking them general questions. I would assume you have some kind of you've got a formula that you go through, a checklist. I'm sure you probably have homework that you give everybody that you require. Because look, if I'm going to spend as much money as folks do on you, it's a massive. It's not just an investment in time. It's investment in money. It's an investment in yourself. So I would
No
think that you
gear.
would make
Yeah.
them be like, look, if I'm going to work with you, you're gonna put in the
Yeah.
work beforehand. So like,
I
what do you
think,
go through?
look, I
Yeah,
think there's a multi-step process, but like before
sure,
they ever would work with me or one of my coaches, we need to make sure we can help them. So we have a strategy call. We figure out where they need help, what they're struggling with, and then we figure out what coach is going to help them, right? So if it's someone that happens to struggle with mindset, habits, or addictive tendencies, or
sure.
anything like that, like they're probably going to get pointed to me because that's the work that I love. If it's someone that just wants deal coaching and wants to be the best seller and they're dialed in, they want no personal development, we might put them on one of my coaches that was a top seller in enterprise. So
Okay,
it's a call, a 45-minute call that they have with my team to really understand where they need help and recommend the right coaching program. If it's someone who just wants to learn what to do and they're very self-motivated, we'll give them a course. Like the nice thing about our business is we have different tiers, and depending on where people need help, then we send them to the right tier. So we have individual, online, then group, and then one-on-one, and then you get Ian if you're at what's called the platinum tier, which is the highest
got it.
level.
So what happens, Ian, if one of your coaches takes on somebody that is just hiring you for deal purposes, right? They want to learn how to incorporate their leadership better. They want to learn how to I don't know, have better relationships with their customers in a way
Sure.
that doesn't make them kind of sound as like a cheesy salesperson just trying to push a product.
Yeah.
What happens? That's not the point of this question. The point of this question is what happens if one of your coaches, in the midst of that interaction, right, actually realizes that that person has other struggles,
Yeah, it
and
happens every time.
how
Yeah,
do
the
you
people that want the sales that say I'm good on the habits and the mindset, they're the ones who need it the most, right? They just don't want to go there. So, I had a call this morning with someone I
okay?
coached for 2 years, and we do these member spotlight calls where we take people who've had a lot of success in the program, and then we have them share what they did. And we said, "What was your journey?" And it was like the first year was all about sales training, sales training, sales training. And I worked with Ian, and what was her quota attainment? 75% of plan. Okay, so we took a step back and she realized she was miserable because she was only chasing the result. And I said, I know you weren't ready for this because I pushed. We always start with mindset. We always start with mindset. We always start with beliefs. And she said, maybe I need to do the mindset stuff. I'm like, it's about time. So she renews another year and we start helping her believe she can succeed. We start challenging limiting
Hmm.
beliefs that came from her family. We start doing work with a program that I learned from an amazing coach called Byron Katie, and it's
Hmm.
overcoming limiting beliefs. She wrote the book Loving What Is, and it's about challenging your belief system and understanding the little voice and turning those into empowering. So I start doing that work with her. I start helping her with her relationship. I start helping her implement a miracle morning, which is a morning routine from a book that I love, Hal Elrod. And I'm not going to get into all the tools, but we start going deep into these self-care tools, personal development tools, limiting belief overcoming. And she finishes 300%, number one on her team in enterprise, because of that. And she said that too.
Unbelievable.
Like, it was the mindset that I needed. I thought I needed this other thing. So I'm not going to, it's like recovery. People need to surrender. Like you said, when we started this, people need to realize they need help before they come and get it. You can say, hey, I recognize this, but unless they are coming and they want it, like they're not going to go and get sober, right? Same thing with personal development, same thing with coaching, right? Until they realize like it's the personal stuff they need to work on, right? Then I'll go where they want to go.
Sure.
But I'm always going to nudge, and I'm always going to encourage, and I'm always going to try to lead them to where I see it. Now, if it's someone who is obvious, like there's something going on, like they can't focus at work, right? And I'm gonna get into habits away. Like it's like you're not gonna be able to do anything I ask if you can't focus. So let's get Instagram off. Let's get some of these distractions tools. Let's inventory the distractions at work. Let's figure out what you're doing instead, and let's really take away all these obstacles and things outside of your peripheral so you can actually focus. And I'll use some of the tools that I use for ADHD coaching, because part of my sobriety, I mean, just for everyone's purpose, or for everyone's knowledge, my sobriety is pornography and compulsive sexual behavior. And I've shared that publicly before.
Yeah, you actually do it all the time. You talk about it on LinkedIn. You're very transparent about it.
Yeah,
actually,
no one talks about that.
And by the way, this is your fucking superpower, dude. The fact that you can actually publicly, sorry about that, you can actually publicly talk about, like, you had struggles. Like I'm now, putting this podcast out there. I just released, the third today with Marin from Soberinth, who we both know and love.
Yep.
And like putting yourself out there and actually admitting that you're a human being and that you have these faults, like that's a hard fucking thing to do. But man, it gives you power, because nobody can take that from you. It allows you to actually bring strength to people that maybe like don't have that. I mean, that's an amazing superpower, Ian.
I say this because because it's taboo, not a lot of people talk about it. So I got sober from porn, right? That was the first thing I did.
Yep.
I went through a whole confession process to my wife about what I wasn't doing. It wasn't just porn. I was going to strip clubs. I'd gone to massage parlors. I was doing things that was out of integrity with my marriage and my values. And I somehow justified it because I didn't have a girlfriend or never had an affair or something. I thought it wasn't cheating. But certainly if it wasn't, I could have told my wife. So this is stuff that many men do that no one talks about. It's absolutely one of the biggest addictions out there right now, especially with, OnlyFans did $7 billion in revenue last year.
I know, it's insane.
It's the fastest growing, and people. So you have men who are mostly married going online to look at other women live, and they're hiding it, right? So that's really what I stand for, is integrity in a marriage, and it's not just recovery. It's about having an honest, open communication with your partner that sets the foundation for a healthy family life. And that's my mission in life. So that's why I share this stuff, because I thought my marriage was good, but I had this other double life that I was living. And fundamentally, I've seen it with people hiding money stuff. I've seen it with people hiding alcohol or drugs. But when you're lying, when you're hiding, that's not a recipe for a great marriage. And so part of my journey in recovery was to tell my wife everything I had done, which was really, really hard, obviously, because I was running the risk of her leaving me.
100%. And by the way, same thing with me and drugs and alcohol and the years of abuse. I started on my sober journey in 2021. I think you were one of the first people that I talked to about
after
this, right?
After I gotten sober, I was saying, Matt, hey, you should check out AA. I mean, you were still using at the time.
But here's the interesting thing, Ian. It took me over 4 years to actually get through step one. I was talking to a guy over the weekend that's a mutual friend of ours. And he still hasn't surrendered, and he still hasn't gone through step one. And by the way, and I told him, I was like, dude, that's okay. Like, it might take you 4 years. You might, but just so you know, there might be things that happen to you in the course of those 4 years, or something may happen to you that forces you towards step one, a DUI, your wife leaves you,
yes.
you kill somebody, drive, like like
Yeah.
that shit happens. I know so many
All
people
the
who've
time.
gone to
Most
jail
people-
all the fucking
most
time.
Most people hit a rock bottom. That is more common than people just deciding to get sober.
And you know what? I am so fortunate that I didn't have one of those kind of rock bottoms, meaning like I didn't have a DUI, I didn't go to jail, I didn't.
I
Like,
did.
I drove plenty. I know.
I did. So that was, yeah.
I had plenty of times where I probably should be, yeah, this is fucking rock bottom, right? Where I had to go to the hospital because, you know, I'd done too much cocaine, right? Like, that should be a wake-up call, right? But, you know, like us and our crazy brains are like, oh, I can just be a normal. And the thing
You
is,
got away with it. That's the thing. You got out of the hospital and you were okay. That's the problem. You got away with it.
and you know what it was in the last 4 years, Ian, is I thought that, and this is a big that, I could become a normal drinker again. So I never actually, and by the way, when I finally surrendered, it actually came down to a guy in the program that's been sober 7 years, my buddy Alex, said to me, you know what, Matt? You just haven't surrendered yet. And I was like, you're right.
Amen.
And all of a sudden, I'm going to meetings, I'm hearing things, Ian, I'm listening. All of a sudden, like, things are opening up, and I'm just like, holy shit, like, and guess what goes away as a result of that? The urge to drink, the urge to use. I'm not going from one addiction to the next. I'm not eating more emotionally. I'm like, it's amazing how those little
where I
things.
was going with this whole ADHD thing, right? So I get, go ahead, keep going.
Just to finish it up. And by the way, like, you know, trauma brings things like ADHD and depression and anxiety. Like, everybody thinks that they're born with it and stuff. No. It's a mental element, right? And so we use drugs and alcohol as a mask. We use it as a way to escape, right? And that's why high performing sales folks like you and I, for years, we would do those things. And it just didn't work for us. I hope that, you know, whoever sees this that's having challenges will reach out to you or will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm having these struggles, like maybe I need some help, you know. And that's the reason why I started, because I think it needs to be more of a conversation.
And we're having a great normal conversation right now, which I love. There's three things that you said, or that I want to kind of dive in for everyone that is sober curious or just wants to understand what this really looks like. So the first is surrendering, right? So every time we say we got this, we don't. I got this. I got this. No, you don't. You don't got this, but God does. That's the whole entire basis of surrender. I can't, but God can. My higher power can, right? Depending on what your beliefs are, right? I'm Christian. I believe in, you know, in God and Christ, but fundamentally, you don't have to be Christian to surrender. You don't have to, but you need to believe and come to the point where you realize, I don't got this, something greater than myself does. And once that happens, there's this lightness, there's this freedom, there's this divine intervention that overtakes you that changes everything. And it's something that,
It's magic.
It is magic. It's like everything, you never go back. Once you've crossed that chasm, you never go back.
And the other thing is, you notice this, right? Like, because you know this, because you and I have talked about it. Like, you can't explain this to somebody. You can't explain it. It's not something that you read in a book and be like, oh, I surrender.
Yeah.
It has to be a switch.
And
You have to.
if you're rationalizing, oh, I can drink once a week. Oh, I can do this twice. For me, it was like, again, rationalize means rational lies. They are rational, they're logical,
good.
but they're lies, rational lies. So every time I would fuck up, I would rationalize it and saying, well, you know, I'm not, like, literally, I'm not cheating. I'm not doing anything bad. Everyone does it.
You would make an excuse. It was just constantly like, I know, zero accountability. It's always something else. And it didn't matter what it was. It wasn't just in the actual porn addiction or the alcohol or whatever. It was in everything that you did. Right?
Yes. And everything I did, you rationalize, you justify, and it's lies. You're living a lie. And so
you're lying to yourself. Like, that's the key. You're lying to yourself.
But it seems rational and it seems logical, and you don't.
And it makes sense because you literally exactly. Okay, so number one is surrender. What's number two?
Number two is just the journey of, I want to say, like, the rock bottom thing, right? I don't. I would love if people don't have to reach a rock bottom. But what happened to me, just to give you guys a little bit of, a perspective on how I became the man I am now and how I can coach in a way that is truly authentic and put it all out there. It was God saved me in a moment that I thought I was going to have committed murder. That's the only way to explain it. And so what happened, to be candid, so I started coaching in 2020, actually 2019. I was kind of coaching. I got sober in February of 2020, February 13th. So what happened was, as I was coaching, I had this I remember one time I just started this coaching business of making videos, and I go to Vegas and I end up getting hammered, getting gambling, and I end up, crossing a line where I actually had women come up to the room that clearly were in sex work. And I was like, I just crossed the line. And I rationalized, because I didn't have physical intercourse with them, that it was okay. And I even was crying on the bed saying, this isn't cheating. She's like, no, you're fine. Because I didn't kiss them or have intercourse with them. I thought, wow. So that's how deep this fucking illogical, rational lies runs. But I knew I had crossed the line. I called a mentor. I told him what happened. I was crying. He said, that goes with you to the grave. So no one knows how to really deal with this who's outside of the addiction community. I called a few people and they're like, oh, you can't tell your wife that. And so I kind of kept it secret. This was in 2019, March. And I was putting on this face, but meanwhile, you're carrying this guilt and shame, whether it's subconscious or deeply buried or a skeleton deeply locked away, it's still in you. So the most free person in the world is the one with nothing to hide. I share this story openly because it's not hidden anymore. And my wife and everyone.
But that must be so freeing. I mean, like it must be just like so freeing, and it's like that takes an incredible amount of courage for you to basically say, I'm going to completely admit all. And by the way, I'm not.
You know how many men I know who went to bachelor parties and cheated on their partner and never ever told them? Even in my close circle, I know many people, and it's cowardly.
As do I. And by the way, let's be clear. What you decided to do isn't necessarily what others need to do. Others can choose, because again, in the 8th and 9th step, it basically talks about if you did something that will cause harm to somebody that you need to make amends with, and you're going to hurt them, maybe you should talk about it with your sponsor. Maybe you should kind of write a letter and then burn the letter. There's healthy ways of doing this, so you don't have to.
Yeah, going back to an ex-girlfriend.
Somebody else, right?
Going back to an ex-girlfriend or doing something when you're married, it's going to open up some can of worms. Maybe it's not the right thing, but for me, confessing to my wife wasn't just the right thing; it was a necessary thing for us to have a honest marriage moving forward. And I was working with an addiction therapist, and that was part of the deal. It was
crazy. That's so incredible. Okay, so number 1, surrender. Yeah. Number 2.
So the number 2 again was the rock bottom. So let me get to what happened with the murder story. So I was coaching and I was living this double life, and for something inside of me, I say divine intervention said, Ian, you can't keep living this way and doing this if you're going to be a coach, if you're going to serve people, and you have this double life. So I decided to tell my wife that I was going on webcams. I was looking at porn where live women had been stripping, similar to what we see with an OnlyFans, but OnlyFans didn't exist then, which I bring that up multiple times because it's so damn popular. It disgusts me because I know how many people are doing that in secret. And so for me, that...
By the way, I can honestly say I have never been on OnlyFans.
I'm glad.
Never been on OnlyFans. I do not plan on it.
I'm glad. And it's, again, this is the thing no one talks about. And I want to bring a light to it because it's about hiding. It's about shame. It's about secrecy. That's what addiction is. And this one, most people don't touch. So I told my wife that I had gone on webcams. And I said, I know you don't approve of strip clubs, but this is kind of like a virtual strip club. How do you feel about that? And she's like, what do you mean? What, is there such a thing? I'm like, and I'm trying to rationalize. I'm like, maybe I can do this if my wife's cool with it, but if she's not cool with it, maybe I need to stop. Because I knew that there was a problem here, and I almost was seeking her approval or validation.
Unbelievable.
That it was okay.
That's amazing.
It's fucking crazy how the mind works. So I tell my wife, and I confess, and she's like, have you done that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, how often do you do it? I'm like, I don't know, maybe once every couple weeks I'll go on one of these sites. And she's like, what? and she was like kind of horrified, but she was processing it. I come back maybe that evening, and she has a whole stack of my credit cards printed out. And every time you go on one of these sites, you're charged. It's a paid site. And so she saw how many times I had gone on, and she had circled it, and she's like, what the hell is going on? What is this? And then,
Wow.
and I kind of got defensive. I'm like, it's not that often. Guys do this, blah, blah, blah. And then she like just full on started crying, and then really like started shaking, trembling. And she fell. She collapsed to the ground. She was 4 months pregnant. And so she was trembling. And I'm like, what have I done? Because you think you're only hurting yourself. But when you think about the people, and if they knew what you were doing in secret, if they're cool, you want to tell them, go tell them. Tell them. If you have nothing to hide, go tell them everything and see how they react. Because I didn't even tell her the worst. I didn't tell her about Vegas. I didn't tell her about strip club. I just told her about the webcams. And she collapsed. And she had to go to the hospital because she started having contractions. And she
Holy
was 4 months
shit.
pregnant. Yeah. So I went to the hospital, and that's my rock bottom. I started praying, and I said, God, please don't take this baby. I literally thought I was going to be responsible for the murder of my unborn son because of things that I thought were okay. So
God,
for me,
that is just so powerful. I mean, we could literally go through another hour just talking about this. I mean, by the way, again, it's just it says everything about kind of who you are now, Ian, in terms of like just what you're sharing. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of personal growth to be able to do, what you do and what I'm starting to do. And like I said, it took me over 4 years. By the way, every time I'd relapse, I'd have to look at my wife in the face and be like, "Are you fucking kidding me again?" You know that look, right?
totally.
And hopefully, whoever is watching this that is still struggling or is thinking about getting sober, that look that your significant other gives you when you relapse.
Yeah.
It's that look that
What
my
if you
wife,
do?
bless
Uh-oh.
her breast, bless her heart. 22 years of marriage, almost 26 years, 27 years of being together. She had to deal with that. Finally, I'm at this place.
And God
So
bless her for putting with you. So anyway, my point. Let me finish the
yeah,
story. So we get to the hospital. The
yep,
doctor puts on the ultrasound. I think the baby's gone because you can't go into labor 4 months pregnant. And I'm just praying and praying and praying. And God did answer my prayers. And the doctor said there was a heartbeat after the longest minute of my life waiting for it.
wow,
And I said, well, what is it then? He's like, these aren't less labor contractions; these are stress contractions.
yep.
What did you cheat on her? You got a girlfriend or something? I said something like that. I said, "Does this happen?" He says, "Every single week this happens.
Wow.
Men betraying their wives, keeping secrets." And I feel so passionately about this particular addiction because it's the one that nobody talks about. Men keeping secrets that are sexual in nature from their partners. And if your partner's cool with what you're doing, good. But do not hide shit because that's part of the addictive cycle. So from that point forward, literally, it was game over. It was the 12 steps. It was therapy. It was seeing a CSAT, which is a certified sex addiction therapist. It's
Yep.
not just any
Oh
addiction
yeah.
therapist. It's
Yep.
sex and compulsive sexual behavior, strip clubs, porn, anything related, hookups, at dating apps, hiding, chat rooms, you name it, right? That's all under the umbrella of sex addiction. And I decided I was done. And the CSAT said, this is what you need to do. And we
Good.
did an inventory. We told my wife everything. She did separate from me for a period of time
Thank
where
God.
she processed everything, and she decided to give me a second chance because she saw I was doing the work. Well, part of that journey was, again, flushing the Adderall down the toilet, which I was also addicted to.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't gotten drunk in 5 years. I stopped smoking weed, and I haven't gambled. So it's literally
Look, man,
every
we've
addiction I ever struggled with was gone because I stopped porn.
I
So
mean, we've talked about this, man. Everything is connected. All addiction's connected. It doesn't matter what it
right.
is. So,
That's right. That's right.
all right, Ian. So we're getting towards the end of our time together, and I want to give you like a minute or so to say whatever you want to say, whether it's advocacy for addiction or if you want to talk about your company or in the last few moments. And by the way, thank you so much for doing this. You obviously are a very busy man, and I think this is going to help a lot of folks. You're just an incredible human being, and I appreciate you, man. So, please take the floor and tell us whatever you want to say, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
So first thing I want to say is the most sick person in the world, or the most free person in the world, is the one with nothing to hide. And we are only as sick as our secrets. And you're talking to a man who's free. You're talking to somebody who truly, if I can share this with the world and whoever's going to listen, that's true freedom. And that's freedom because there are no secrets. What you see is what you get. And I just want to say it took me a long time to get here. You may have secrets. You may think, I could never do that. I've been there. But I can just tell you from firsthand, there's freedom on the other side of facing your demons and shining a light on the thing. And everyone's got something, right? We all have skeletons. We all have secrets. Shining a light on the thing. You wouldn't be listening to this if things were perfect, right? It's because we're all broken. And the only way we get pieced together is when we admit that we are broken, that we don't have it all together. And I just want to encourage people to realize, like, addiction doesn't have to look like what you might see on TV or what you might have as a stigma associated with, someone in an alley shooting up heroin. Addiction can look like someone who's very successful, who has it all together, and who's hiding these little things here and there. And don't, if you struggle with secrets, right? If you're doing things that you're not proud of and you keep going back to it and justify it, my plea to you is to treat like this seriously and get help and surrender and go into whatever specific meeting or program is for your vice. Because it's not just alcohol. It could be amphetamines or Adderall. It could be gambling. It could be food. I had someone I coached this morning who was doing binge eating. And there's help for that specifically, which is an addictive cycle. For me, it was compulsive sexual behavior. There are experts and people and communities that have walked this walk. And when you go there, you will have the act of going to the meeting and hearing people and being able to share will create a freedom that is unlike anything that you've ever experienced, because you'll realize you're not alone. You don't have to carry this burden, this secret. And so, again, I just want to tell everyone listening, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? You are human. And what is wrong is continuing to deny it and continuing to rationalize it. And don't make the same mistake that I did and wait till
I call it living in the excuse.
That's right. That's right. So you're
right.
To get there on your own, but there is help on the way, and there is a life of pure bliss on the other side of facing the thing that you've always been avoiding, that you still are facing and struggling with right now. There is help, there is freedom, but you've got to take the first step. And if I can support you in any way or talk, I'm happy to. I want to just end with a text that I got this morning from somebody. This is why I do what I do. It said, Ian, I hope you're doing well. This is someone I talked to about 3 months ago. He reached out on LinkedIn. He said, I struggle with, porn and compulsive sexual behavior too. No one talks about it. I thought I was alone. And I took a call with him for an hour and a half. And he said, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to thank you again for our initial phone conversation. I'm 3 months sober. Turns out you were right about the whole job thing. I'm still at my current job doing well and getting recognized by leadership, even the CRO and CMO. I'm extremely grateful I stayed because it's allowed me to continue to work the program, see my CSAT twice a week. I got a new sponsor. I'm attending meetings daily. And while sobriety hasn't been perfect, I've had so much progress with healing my trauma, and my relationship with my brother and mother is better than ever. Thanks again. Wow. So I got this text today, and I was just like, God willing, right? So it helps when you face yourself, when you take the time to work on yourself and actually get the help, the business, and the career.
Everything else, the byproduct is success.
That's right. Everything else is succeed. Don't worry. Don't not take the time because you're too busy. That's why you need to do it, right? Because it's going to help you be successful everywhere else. So that's been my story too. Once I got sober and then I went back to my business because I paused everything so I could focus on recovery, my business blew up. And that's how we landed and where we are today, is because I did the work to be the person who could run a multi-million-dollar business and coach so many people.
Oh, man. Well, Ian, I love you. I love you, my brother, and
Love you too, brother.
thank you.
I'm
I
so
thank you.
proud of you.
Oh, thanks. It's definitely. I mean, I'm really excited to kind of see where this thing goes. Obviously, you're a big part of my recovery. And just to echo what you're saying, and then we'll go ahead and we'll say goodbye to everybody. This is not a journey that you want to do by yourself. I'm just going to say a couple things. Not a journey that you want to do by yourself, so you're not alone. 2, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say I'm not okay. It's okay to ask your significant other, your brother, your mother, your father, your parent, your best friend, say, I need help, I need help, I need help, I need help, I need help. And I don't know where to get started. And you can reach out to Ian. You can go to iankoniak.com. You can reach out to me. There's a number of different ways. Get me on LinkedIn. You can get me, you can DM me. It's just at the Sober Cold Bear. You can go to Cold Bear Plunge. Any of those, you can reach me. We're here to help you, because if you can't figure this out on your own, which the likelihood is you probably can't. You might make a couple of strides. We want to help you, and I want to be the best version of myself, and I can't do it alone. So the sooner that you do something about it, the better off you're going to be. Ian, I love you again. Thank you so much.
Can I add one thing?
You got it.
On this journey, like progress, not perfection. I
Absolutely.
quit porn 5 years ago in February. So I guess that would be 62 months ago. And I had slips, right? So it's not about counting the sober days. It's not about this back.
I call it the lapse. I call it the lapse versus the relapse. Yes.
So I'm showing this almost 9 months. So I had 8 months, 28 days of no porn. But in the past 5 years, I can count on one hand how many times I've slipped. So
But by the way, we could spend a whole other time talking about like what led you to do that 8 months ago. But that's a whole separate thing. We're
Yeah, there's a lot of triggers, but fundamentally, I'm just telling you, like, if you want to stop and you go on a stint, and like, you'll get there in the time God has planned for you. For you, it took 4 years. That was the timing you needed to be ready to do what you're doing now. It's all divine timing. So it doesn't need to be perfect. You just got to take the first step. So I just want to remind people that there's no perfect sober journey. It doesn't exist. It wasn't easy cake. Here, I'm done after 5. But it's been gradual, and I'm again so proud of the man I am today to be able to sit and have these conversations.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you, and thank you again, Ian. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks again for everybody listening into the Sober Cold Bear, and I hope everybody has, wherever you are, wherever you're doing, I hope you are well, and I hope you take something from this and do something good for yourself. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind, and sometimes I look